The basics of logical tests. Let's explore a really useful set of tools in Excel, logical functions. Before we get too deep, what exactly is a logical function? At its core, it's just something that performs a test and gives you one of two answers, true or false. Here's the simplest way to see it in action. Imagine you type the number 6,000 into one cell and 3,000 into another. Now, in a third cell, you can perform a logical test on them. You could ask Excel, is the value in this cell greater than the value in that one? You'd write it like this, equals A17 greater than A18. That greater than symbol is what's known as a logical operator. There are a few of them you can use, like less than, equals, greater than or equal to, and so on. When you hit enter on that formula, Excel comes back with true, because yes, 6,000 is greater than 3,000. What happens if you flip the operator? If you change it to a less than symbol, the result will be false. It's also false if you test if they're equal, because they aren't. That's the fundamental idea. You're asking a question, and Excel gives you a simple true or false in return. Putting logical tests to work. Okay, that's neat, but how is it actually helpful? Let's look at a more practical example. Imagine a small table of inventory records. We want to evaluate whether a product qualifies for a discount based on its price. There is a rule. If a product's price is greater than or equal to a specified threshold, a discount will be applied. I can use a logical test to check this condition. I'll write a formula that asks, is this product's price greater than or equal to the discount limit? The result will be shown in a column called discount included. The formula would look like this, equals B6 greater than or equal to J5. Now here's a critical tip. Since we plan to copy this formula down for every product, we need to make sure the reference to the approval limit in cell J5 doesn't change. You can lock it in place by making it an absolute reference. The easiest way to do this is to click on the cell reference in your formula and press the F4 key. When you hit enter, you'll get a false for the first product since its price is below the limit. If you drag that formula down for the rest of the list, you'll see true for anything with a price of $8,000 or more. This works, but I think you'll agree that just seeing true or false isn't all that descriptive. You're probably wondering if we can make it clearer. Making a decision with the if function. This is exactly why the if function exists. The if function performs the exact same logical test we just did, but it gives you control over the output. Instead of being stuck with true or false, you can tell Excel what to display if the test is true and what to display if it's false. Here's how you'd set it up for our product list. You start with equals if. The first part of the function is the logical test, which is the same one we used before, B6 greater than or equal to J5. Then you type a comma. The next part is the value if true. This is what you want to see if the product does need approval. Since we want to display text, we'll put it in quotes like this, included. After another comma, you provide the value if false, which should be not included. So the complete formula is equals if B6 greater than or equal to $J5, comma, included, comma, not included, close bracket. Once you copy that down, your table is immediately easier to understand. The results have real meaning, and it's perfectly clear whether they are included or not. Getting more practice with if. Let's try another common scenario to get comfortable. Here we have a list of salespeople and their sales figures. The sales target for a bonus is in cell F3. Our goal is to create a bonus column that shows whether each salesperson earned a bonus. This is a perfect job for the if function. Our logical test will check if the salesperson's sales in cell B4 is greater than or equal to the target in cell F3. Remember to lock that F3 cell with F4 since we'll be copying the formula. If the test is true, the salesperson gets a bonus, so we'll tell Excel to show the word yes. If it's false, they unfortunately get a no. Your formula will be equals if B4 greater than or equal to F3, yes, no. Hit enter, drag it down, and you instantly have a clear summary of who gets a bonus. What if the outcome is a calculation? Here's where things get even more interesting. The result of an if function doesn't have to be text. You can actually make Excel perform a calculation instead. Imagine we have a list of products with their weight and price. The rule is that if a product weighs 25 kilos or more, we need to add a 15% shipping fee based on its price. Let's build an if function to handle this. The logical test is straightforward. Is the weight in B14 greater than or equal to the 25 threshold in H13? Don't forget to lock that H13 cell with F4. Now for the value if true. If the product is heavy enough, we need to calculate the fee. So we'll tell Excel to take the price in C14 and multiply it by the 15% fee stored in H14, which also needs to be locked with F4. And what if it's false? If the product is under the weight limit, there's no shipping fee. So for the value if false, we can just put a 0. The final formula looks like this: equals if B14 greater than H13, C14 times H14, 0. When you copy this down, you'll see that the shipping fee is correctly calculated, but only for the items that meet the weight requirement. When multiple things must be true, the AND function. Sometimes a single test isn't enough. What if you have multiple conditions that all need to be met? For this, you can use the AND function. Let's say we have a list of projects with their budget and timeline. To be approved, a project must have a budget of $10,000 or less and take 6 weeks or fewer to complete. Both conditions have to be true. The AND function is designed for exactly this. You'd write equals and, then you just list your logical tests, separated by commas. Our first test is B23 less than or equal to H22, locking H22 with F4. Our second test is C23 less than or equal to H23, locking H23 with F4. Your formula becomes equals and B23 less than or equal to H22, C23 less than or equal to H23. When you run this, you'll get a true or false. Notice that if a project meets only one criterion but not the other, the result is false. That's because AND demands that every condition is met. Of course, we're back to trues and falses. You've probably figured out the next step. To make the results meaningful, we need to wrap our AND function inside an if function. It's actually quite simple. The entire AND bracket formula you just created serves as the logical test for a new if function. You just edit the formula to be equals if and B23 less than or equal to H22, C23 less than or equal to H23, then yes, no. Now you're telling Excel, if the result of all the AND tests is true, display yes. Otherwise, it must mean one or more criteria weren't met, so display no. When only one thing needs to be true, the OR function. As you might expect, there's an opposite to AND. It's the OR function, and it's used when you only need at least one of your conditions to be true. Let's change the rules for our support tickets. Now, to be expedited, a ticket only needs to have a priority of high or an impact of critical. It doesn't need to meet both criteria. Since you know the drill by now, we can build this directly inside an if statement from the start. We'll type equals if, open parentheses, and for the logical test, we'll use OR, open parentheses. Inside the OR function, we list our conditions just like before. B32 equals H31, locked, and C32 equals H32, locked. We close the OR function, and now we're back in our if function, ready to specify the outcomes. If the result is true, meaning they meet at least one criterion, we'll display yes. If it's false, meaning they meet neither criterion, we'll display no. The final formula is like this: equals if or B32 equals H31, C32 equals H32. then yes, no. Copy that down, and you'll see more tickets being expedited because the condition is much less strict. As long as one of their attributes matches the criteria, they make the cut.